Hey, I'm dealing with now mandatory face mask laws in Canada, in the province of Ontario. I'm just singling out that province. It's quite populous, and the unusual thing about the COVID-19 legislation in Canada is that it has not emanated from the federal level, but is emanated from the the provincial level in each of the provinces. I'll just deal with Ontario. It would be similar for each province because they don't seem to be, the premiers of each province are not bringing forward a mandatory face mask order. They have made declarations, emergency declarations, but they're leaving it up to the individual municipalities and districts if they want to bring in face mask orders. So the first one I'll deal with is in the city of Toronto, and they brought this in on the 29th and 30th of June 2020, and it imposes a face mask wearing, public transport and in public accommodations and shops and so on. I won't go through it all. I will just show the pages here, and these will be available as a download. Everything that I'm going to touch on here. Now, I'm also going to, here I'm going to go that in July, the 15th of July, in the city of Ottawa, where the Parliament is for Canada, they imposed a face mask regulation. Up at the top of the page here is from the official Gazette of Canada, is the declaration of the Premier, Doug Ford, which was made on the 17th of March in relation to declaring an emergency. And what it talks about is a declaration of emergency, whereas an outbreak of a communicable disease, namely COVID-19 coronavirus disease, constitutes a danger of major proportions that could result in serious harms to persons. And whereas the criteria set out in subsection 7 of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, and therefore under that act, they declared an emergency for the whole province of Ontario. This, as you can see here, each province made their own declaration. I've just dealt with in Ontario. Now, within those regulations, consideration has not been taken in to the fact that people have the right of informed refusal, and they have to wearing the face mask under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and also under other Canadian law and Constitution. Informed consent is very well dealt with in other Canadian legislation, and I'm surprised that these municipalities are imposing these face mask regulations without giving Canadians the right to be heard in relation to what is a very strict regulation in terms of fines and the way it's imposed on different sectors of businesses and so on. And it has totally ignored the principles and the rights of informed consent and the principles of also informed refusal, which I'll just show here again. Now, I'm bringing to the attention of people here that this act here, the Healthcare Consent Act, has some very good provisions in it in relation to informed consent, what it means and what the rights of Canadians are, especially Ontarians, what their rights are. This is an Ontario Act, okay? And there's no treatment without consent. Well, as we all know, this is considered to be a health issue. So people have the right to either consent or refuse the treatment. And that is dealt with here in this, which this will be available again in a download. And Section 10 there talks about no treatment without consent. Section 11 talks about the elements of consent. And then Section 12 talks about the circumstances. And Section 13 talks about the plan of treatment. So that has to be, in other words, laid out, that the reasons why you're asking someone to do something or accept something. And this I would consider to be, in many cases, or in most cases, I would consider it to be a kind of a treatment, whether it's prevention or whatever. So, and Section 14 deals with withdrawal of consent. Now, the next thing is that in all these regulations and bylaws, they all respect the rights that are within the Canadian Constitution and the Bill of Rights and Freedoms. And in here, it gives you fundamental freedoms. And it's very well explained. As regards what your rights are. And here on this page deals with your legal rights in regards to life, liberty, and security of person. And that in most cases, these rights cannot be abridged. But I would say, consider from looking at the way these bylaws were brought about, they did not give due consideration to your rights under the Constitution and your rights of informed consent and your rights of refusal under the Ontario Health Care Consent Act. Now, the last thing I want to deal with is that all of those acts also take cognizance of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Canada was among the founders when this was in the drafting of this, when it was being done in the 1950s. Originally, there was a reservation on their part because they wanted some things changed, and they obviously, as the drafters, they brought out, involved in the drafting, a very great declaration for the whole world. Now, the last thing I want to talk on is, this is an article which I found here in relation to the federal government of Canada. Would they declare an emergency? No. They will not declare an emergency, and they're hampered in relation to declaring an emergency because of the fact that emergencies declared under federal legislation, which is under the Emergencies Act here. And this talks about the powers under that and why it cannot happen is it has to be debated at federal level in Parliament. And it appears that the provinces have the power to declare the emergencies themselves, and the way the government is set up, they can delegate that power, and there isn't a need to declare a nationwide emergency because of the vastness of the country and the fact that things can be dealt with better on a local level. So this would have to be debated, and it would take a lot of time, and more than likely this would never come to pass. And the provincial governments are more well-equipped to do this than what would be a federal government. And I hope I've explained this here in relation to your rights in regards to consent. There is a tons of great legislation in Canada in relation to your rights to consent, and it's highly suspect that some of these cities are bringing in this mandatory face mask orders without giving due consideration to the people's rights. Thank you.